So without talking about the 49ers and pending re-signings or extensions with Kittle and Buckner, I wanted to take a look at the 17 free agents the 49ers have going into this offseason. And I got a list here, and I'm just going to read some of them off, and I'm going to give you guys my opinion on who should go and who should stay. And then if you guys want to comment on the same thing in the comments, go right ahead. Free agency falls under two things, two categories. Unrestricted free agent, any player with 4 or more occurred seasons and an expired contract, free to negotiate and sign with any team. Restricted free agent, a player with 3 occurred seasons and an expired contract. Restricted free agents are free to negotiate and sign with any team, but their original team can offer them one of the various qualifying tenders, that come with right of first refusal and or draft pick compensation. So the first guy we're going to look at is Emmanuel Sanders. He was, pretty valuable last season at times. Definitely, I felt once he came to the 49ers, the Niners' young wide receiving core definitely went on the upward trend. Definitely Jimmy's go-to guy when he first got here, for sure. We saw that firsthand in the Cardinals game, how much that meant in the first Cardinals matchup, and then how not having him during the Seattle matchup, the first one at home, we had him in the beginning of the game, and then he went out, and we saw how much that affected Jimmy Garoppolo. This really comes down to what he's willing to take his pay. He's a 32-year-old receiver. His cap hit might be pretty high. So, the 49ers got to look at that and say, if the guy's willing to play for the minimum, we could keep him. There's going to be some wide receivers on the market. I know A.J. Green has been talked about and bandied about with some 49er fans. I'm kind of iffy on him because he's injury prone, but he is a bigger bodied guy, and he's a little younger than Emmanuel Sanders. But if Emmanuel Sanders can stay, wants to stay, I feel like he has to take an offer that's team friendly. And if that's the case, then I see him staying as a 49er. Next guy on the list is Jason Verrett. I don't really see any reason for the Niners to keep him. He's been injury prone his whole career. It was a nice story going into camp last year, but at the little time that he showed, he got burnt twice in the Pittsburgh game, like back-to-back plays, and that was pretty much it for the season. He's more of a name than anything now, but the guy is just an injury liable. He's just an liability as far as injury goes, and I just don't see the Niners tendering him anything. I don't know. It's hard to say. He would be it wouldn't be much money against the cap. I don't think the Niners are going to offer him next to anything. So that's one of those team-friendly things. He'd be good depth if we could keep him, but he has to stay healthy. Eric Armstead, of course, he's coming off his best season statistically. He amassed 10 sacks, 18 quarterback hits, 54 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. He was a key cog in the defensive line. And to me, this really comes down to who the 49ers are willing to pay. Are we, with him and Ward kind of in the same boat, who are you willing to pay? My honest opinion, honestly, I would keep Armstead. I would do whatever it takes to keep him, whatever roster maneuvering we got to do to keep him. I feel like he's an important cog in the defense. I feel like he's him along with the rotation that we had behind him early in the season was just deadly for quarterbacks. And I feel like to me, he should be high priority to try to keep. The problem is he's going to have a high cap hit, even as a franchise tag, so it could be near $20 million. So I don't know if you want to have a $20 million price tag on a defensive end when you have so many other needs and you have contract extensions coming up with Buckner and George Kittle. Sean Coleman, offensive tackle, is the next guy on the list. To me, he's a no-brainer to keep. He was a great swing tackle. He stepped in for Joe Staley, I think the season before, and did well. When we lost him early in the season with a broken leg. It says dislocated ankle here, but I could have sworn it was a broken leg. And he would be awesome as far as depth goes on the offensive line. It's always good to have a guy who can play both tackle positions, and it would just be pro bono if we could keep him and re-sign him. The next guy is Ben Garland. He was pretty valuable, I must say, as a backup. He's good depth. He's a veteran, but he's no Weston Richburg. Once Richburg went down, I feel like the Niners' run game suffered. And to me, it's a matter of it's just a matter of how much these guys want. I mean, he's a veteran backup offensive lineman, so I don't see him being too much of a financial liability for the 49ers not to keep him. He's probably one of the better centers on the free agent market, so if the Niners can afford to keep him, I say do it. Next one is tight end Levine Toilolo. To me, he's just a depth guy, really a run. He's in for like an extra offensive tackle on run plays. To me, the Niners have an excess at tight end, so keeping him, not keeping him, to me, it doesn't really matter. They have a retirement of Selleck that just retired in the offseason, so, I mean, they would have an opportunity to keep him if they wanted to. But to me, it really doesn't matter either way. Yeah, he's good in the run game, but you could probably find another big, giant blocking tight end to do the same thing. Next guy is Demontre Moore. To me, that's a no-brainer. Keep him. We never got much to see. We didn't see much of him because he only played I think one game, and then he broke his arm. So to me, he's a no-brainer to keep for depth and for the rotation of pass rushers that we have. And I don't see the 49ers having a problem keeping him as far as money goes. I don't see. I mean, he is what he is. He was a late camp cut last year, and shouldn't be too much of a financial burden for the 49ers. Jordan Matthews is the next one. He might be a camp body next year, but I don't see the 49ers keeping him. If anything, the Niners might draft a late-round receiver. But then again, they could keep him because I don't see Goodwin coming back next year. So, I don't know. The 49ers have some young receivers that I think that are more important than a guy like Jordan Matthews and Marquise Goodwin. So, I'm either way on this one. Doesn't really matter to me. Dante Johnson, not much on him. He was brought in this year because we had injury concerns at corner. I see him as a camp body, but I don't see him making the team next year. Sheldon Day, I'm not too high on Sheldon Day. He's definitely no DJ Jones, so I don't see the Niners keeping him. If anything, they could probably draft the guy in the 5th round to replace him. Defensive end Anthony Zettel, he came in on the team. He was kind of a late season pickup when we were having a lot of depth issues on the defensive line. I really don't see him coming back. Ronald Blair is a must. You got to re-sign him. He's a beast. If we lose a guy like Armstead, then you got to keep a guy like Ronald Blair. Ronald Blair is a super talented pass rusher, and the Niners really missed him down the stretch when not having his depth on the defensive line. As I mentioned before, Garrett Selleck is retiring, so that's pretty much a no conversation on that one. Elijah Lee, he might be kept maybe for depth, But we are pretty good at that position, linebacker. I might see him stay on as a special teamer, but I don't see much more than that. Let's not forget Jimmy Ward either. Jimmy Ward is in one of those positions where you're going to have to make a choice whether it's Armstead or Ward who you want to keep. My personal choice would be to let Ward go, let him walk. We still have Tavarius Moore to fall back on. And the 49ers could honestly, with that late round first, if they don't, trade back into the second, pick a safety at that spot and go into camp with those two safeties as their, projected starters. Really, it just comes down to who you deem more valuable, Eric Armstead or Jimmy Ward. I just feel like, to myself, Eric Armstead is more valuable, but that's just me. If we could get more speed back there in the safety department, then I would go with a draft pick back there. But that's another conversation for a different day. The next one on the list is Matt Breida. I definitely see the 49ers keeping him. I think if any back is going to not be re-signed, it'll probably be Tevin Coleman. I just think Breida brings something different to the conversation. I think he's a fast, lightning quick change of pace guy that 49ers can definitely use. And I think Tevin Coleman and Mostert, I think a lot of those guys, Jeff Wilson Jr., they're the same type of runner. Whereas Breida is kind of like a lightning quick alternative. He's like your specialty piece that you bring in, and but you got to use him rare. You got to use him. You got to measure his snap counts because he's just not built to take the punishment of an every down back, and he's got to work on his fumbling too. And then the last player on the list is Kendrick Bourne. I definitely see the 49ers re-signing him. He's a young up-and-coming player. He's been in the league a couple years, but I definitely see him continuing. And I just think that the more young players they can get, then sign and keep to build that core out, the better they are than going out and signing, someone that's going to cost more money. They have players in the building that they can use. And I just think Kendrick Bourne is a talented enough player that the 49ers are going to definitely re-sign him. That's pretty much going to do it for this episode. I just wanted to make a quick, actually it's not a quick video. I don't even know how long it's been, but it's just to touch on the free agents that we have. And then we go into draft season shortly thereafter. So it should be an interesting time. We'll talk to everybody later. And until next time, see ya.